Hey guys, so I definitely can eat crow, but my prediction is that there is no lawsuit, namely due to how difficult it would be to have a lawsuit from a Yemi citizen versus a U.S. citizen for defamation. We are not talking about something that is common. This is in fact very uncommon. I went on the database, and I wanted to know if this was actually a lawsuit and we could pull some court documents to look at. No. So it has not been updated. So it was dropped sometime around last night, 10 hours ago, as of recording this video. So there might take some time to drop the lawsuit, but there is no documentation on his side either, other than a link to get more donations. So I'm a little skeptical, very skeptical. And I am also very skeptical that you would have any lawyer. So, first of all, he only speaks Arabic. He does not speak English. So, you would need a Arabic speaking lawyer in the US to take this case. And because of jurisdiction reasons, you would need one in Los Angeles to sue Ethan Klein in Los Angeles. So, let's go over the hypotheticals and what makes this so difficult. So, a Yemen citizen winning a defamation claim against a US citizen is possible, but it's going to be much harder than you guys imagine. So, jurisdiction. The first question is, where is the case going to be heard? In a U.S. court, the Yemi plaintiff would need to prove that the U.S. court has personal jurisdiction over the defendant. This usually means the alleged defamatory statements were made in, directed at, or caused harm in the U.S. Is that true or not? Because this is the first step. The first battle is for your lawyer to get the case accepted in jurisdiction. I think this might be a battle for him. This is going to be not easy. If the statements were made online, the courts often accept jurisdiction if the audience includes U.S. residents or if the defendant resides in the U.S. In a Yemi court, so there's two types of courts, right? So under U.S. law and then under Yemi court, it is not clear where he filed. But in a Yemi court, a Yemi citizen could sue in Yemen under Yemi defamation law. However, enforcing a Yemi judgment in the U.S. would require the U.S. to recognize and enforce the foreign judgment. U.S. courts will not enforce foreign defamation judgments if they conflict with the U.S. First Amendment protection. So in this case, you could have, what I think is probably more likely, him filing in Yemi court, him winning against Ethan, but it's a nothing burger because the U.S. courts would not enforce it. U.S. and Yemi are, I don't know if they're allies or whatever, but it does not look like U.S. courts will enforce many of the Middle East defamation judgments. Because if you look at it, like Saudi Arabia has some crazy defamation, right? Where they can just, right? for offending somebody over something very simple, especially if you are a woman, right? There are many things that are not deemed offensive in the U.S., which are protected by First Amendment, freedom of speech. That if you went to a Middle Eastern country, yeah, I mean, you can understand, things that I'm talking about. Hopefully, fill in the blanks. So the U.S. court is not going to recognize Yemi for defamation if it conflicts with the U.S. amendment, the First Amendment. Defamation standards, the plaintiff must prove a false statement of fact. So the false statement here being that he is a T-ist, is some word we cannot say on YouTube without being just ban-hammered. I think there is an argument that could be made. I think Ethan Klein they've been having a back and forth on Instagram. It's not clear. Let's just say it's not clear. 2, publication to a third party. 3, fault amounting to negligence or actual malice if plaintiff is a public figure, which, according to himself, he probably would consider himself a public figure, and we know Ethan Klein is definitely a public figure. So if you're saying that you're an influencer, you are a public figure, so you need to get past actual malice. I don't think there's actual malice here. I just think it's Ethan Klein saying what he believes, that he is a blank-ist. And then damages. How the hell is this guy going to prove damages? Like, I don't understand what his claim for damages are, and if they are, he's a very poor individual. Like, this sucks to say, but if you cannot prove actual monetary damages, oh, I was invited to this convention and the convention canceled me because of the defamatory things that you said about me, a la Carl Jobs and Billy Mitchell, this is going to be really hard to prove damages because, again, he's in a different country and it's all got to be translated and there might be cultural differences. But at the end of the day, he's probably raising more money than he's ever had in his life. He's had more social media press. Ethan's actually giving him attention. I don't really know what damages there are. The U.S. defamation law is very defendant friendly because of the First Amendment, correct? It is very hard to win a defamation case, even if you're a U.S. citizen, against another U.S. citizen. The fact that you are a Yemi citizen, again, the damages part, I just don't understand what the damages are. If somebody can leave me a comment in the comment section and let me know what, because the damages he's claiming, oh, I can't travel. Were you really traveling before? Like, you have to understand, like, if you never traveled in your life and then your visas got rejected, and what the damages is like, oh, he deleted my social, were those damages on Facebook's end? What I'm saying is all the bad things that happened to him, it was the big tech companies that deleted his accounts, and I think rightfully so, based on the content I've seen. And it was because it was inflammatory content, which is also not protected under the U.S. First Amendment. You're inciting violence, And again, we can argue until we're blue in the moon, but that's my interpretation of what he was posting, and that is why social media. Even Klein didn't get your social media deleted. Facebook decided to do that. Right? Even if Ethan Klein reported you, okay, Facebook can say, oh, no, we agree with you. They didn't. Same with TikTok, which is owned by China. Same with Instagram. Same with Snapchat. These are tech companies making decisions, and on any given day, they're banning probably thousands of people. You're not anything special, in my opinion. So Yemi law, Yemen's defamation laws are more restrictive on speech than the U.S. Winning in Yemen is easier than the U.S., but enforcing the judgment in the U.S. is difficult due to the Speech Act. Again, we don't even know which court he filed in. I think he could actually win in Yemen law because freedom of speech does not exist in Yemen. Like, this is kind of crazy, right? Like, he's like, the countries where he's suing from has a very poor reputation for freedom of speech, and this is historical. And this is in the courts. Like, I've looked at cases. I mean, it's not good, but they're not, even if he wins in Yemen, the U.S. will never uphold it, and he'll never win a dime. Practical path for a Yemen. So now I'm pretending to be his lawyer pretending I'm his lawyer. Best chance to win and collect money, file the lawsuit in the U.S., when the defendant resides and has assets. Easier to win, but harder to collect money, file in Yemen or another country with more speech restrictions, but you may not be able to enforce the judgment in the U.S. unless it meets the U.S. freedom of speech standards. So here are some actual examples. Okay, Rachel Anfed versus Khalil Ben Mahfouz in 2008. A U.S. author sued in the U.K. for defamation by a Saudi businessman. The U.S. passed the Speech Act in response to stop libel tourism. So this was the whole thing where you could actually go to countries where their freedom of speech wasn't as strong and then sue people in the U.S. But the U.S. said, no, we passed a Speech Act, which means we don't give a damn what country you're suing from. Unless you're suing from the U.S. And let me actually tell you this. There is no known case yet of a Yemen citizen winning and enforcing a defamation judgment against a U.S. citizen in U.S. court. There is 0 cases currently. None. There are no cases on the docket, and there's never been a case in the history of the world where a Yemen citizen won and was able to enforce a defamation judgment against a U.S. citizen, which Ethan Klein is. So that brings me back to the point. Is he suing Ethan Klein in the U.S.? That means he would have to travel to the U.S., right? That means he would have to find a lawyer in the US. That means he would have to pay a shit ton of money if he's hiring a lawyer in Los Angeles. Where is the money coming from? Could it possibly be coming from like shadier sources, right? Like I don't know. Like it's a lot of money. We're talking about $1 million for a defamation lawsuit of this nature. Should it go full trial? He got $1 million. I mean, in the history of his donations, he's had 2 donations. He's asked for £500,000 British pounds, which at the time is like $1 million. And he only raised 480. He's raised a lot more money for himself than he raised for Yemen. I don't know. This seems like a grift to me because the chance of him winning is almost 0. Like we're talking about like catastrophe. Okay, so let's say he sues Ethan Klein. What are the damages like monetarily? Okay, so don't talk about his emotions. He can't travel. He wasn't traveling to begin with. Okay. He doesn't on his passport. Does he have like a bunch of places he's been? No. What exactly are the damages that he's seeking? Because I can tell you what his lawyer fees will be. His lawyer fees are going to be 100,000 to start, and probably if he goes to trial over $1 million, given how specific of a lawyer he needs. He needs a defamation lawyer in Los Angeles that speaks Arabic. Typically speaking, when you add each of these details, it will cost you another layer of money, right? To be quite honest, I don't know many Arabic defamation attorneys. I'm thinking on my top of my head, and I think for obvious reasons, they may not actually like defamation. They might not actually. So I'm thinking on top of my head, would they? I'm not going to say what I need to say, but it is, the whole debate about this is whether or not he is a T blankish. Is it possible he is? Like, like from what I see on social media, it's very inciting. It's very inflammatory. It's, hey, let's all rise up against, that blank. It's like, no wonder they took down your content, my dude. Like social media, maybe you're suing the wrong person. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Guys.